The coffee was still steaming when Robert Caldwell threw it in Maya Rodriguez's face. I'm telling you this story because what happened in the next 10 minutes at Betty's Diner in Flagstaff, Arizona proved that money can't buy you immunity from consequences, not when 5 Hells Angels are watching. Robert Caldwell was worth $43 million. He'd made his fortune in real estate development, tearing down historic buildings and replacing them with luxury condos that locals couldn't afford. He drove a Mercedes S-Class, wore a Rolex that cost more than most people's yearly salary, and treated service workers like they were beneath his notice. Maya Rodriguez was a 26-year-old single mother working double shifts to pay for her nursing school tuition. She'd been waitressing at Betty's Diner for 3 years, saving every spare dollar, dreaming of a better life for her 4-year-old daughter. Their paths crossed on a Tuesday morning at 9:47 a.m., and what Caldwell did to her would have gone unpunished, if not for 5 leather-clad witnesses sitting in the corner booth. Betty's Diner sat on Route 66, a classic American roadside establishment with red vinyl booths, black and white checkered floors, and a jukebox that still played Elvis. The coffee was strong, the pancakes were legendary, and the owner, Betty Tran, treated her staff like family. Maya had started her shift at 6 a.m., already exhausted from studying until 2 in the morning. Her anatomy exam was in 3 days, and she was determined to ace it. But first, she had to get through an 8-hour shift on 4 hours of sleep. Robert Caldwell walked in at 9:30 a.m., his phone pressed to his ear, his voice loud enough that everyone in the diner could hear him closing some deal that would probably displace another dozen families. He sat in Maya's section without waiting to be seated, snapping his fingers at her like she was a dog. Maya swallowed her irritation and approached with a professional smile. "Good morning, sir. Can I start you off with some coffee?" Caldwell didn't look up from his phone. He just thrust his hand out, palm up, in a gesture that clearly meant bring it now. Maya poured his coffee, black, and set it down gently. "Are you ready to order, or do you need a few minutes?" "I need you to be quiet," Caldwell said, his hand over his phone's microphone. "Can't you see I'm on a call?" Maya's smile tightened, but she nodded and walked away. In the corner booth, 5 members of the Devil's Disciples MC watched the exchange with narrowed eyes. They'd stopped at Betty's for breakfast on their way back to Phoenix after a charity ride in Sedona. The patches on their vests marked them as men who'd chosen a life outside conventional society's rules, but those rules included respect, loyalty, and protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. Razor, the chapter vice president, was a 48-year-old former Marine with a scar running down his left cheek and zero tolerance for bullies. He'd seen the finger snap, heard the dismissive tone, and felt his jaw tighten. "Easy," Hammer said quietly. Hammer was their enforcer, 6'4" and built like a concrete wall. "Not our business yet." "Yet," Razor repeated, his eyes never leaving Caldwell. 10 minutes later, Maya returned to Caldwell's table. He was still on his phone, and she waited patiently for a break in his conversation. "What?" Caldwell snapped, lowering the phone momentarily. "Are you ready to order, sir?" "Eggs Benedict. And make sure the hollandaise isn't too thick. Last time I had it here, it was like eating paste." Maya kept her professional smile. "Sir, this is your first time at Betty's. We don't have a last time in our records." Caldwell's face reddened. "Are you calling me a liar?" "No, sir. I'm just saying." "I don't care what you're saying. Eggs Benedict. Don't screw it up." Maya wrote down the order and walked away, her smile finally cracking. She passed the Devil's Disciples table on her way to the kitchen, and Razor caught her eye. "You doing okay?" he asked quietly. Maya glanced back at Caldwell, who was already yelling into his phone again. "Just another Tuesday. That guy giving you trouble?" "Nothing I can't handle. But thank you for asking." She disappeared into the kitchen, and Razor looked at his brothers. "I don't like him." "Nobody likes him," said Tank, the club's treasurer. "But being a jackass isn't a crime." "Not yet," Razor said again. The food came out 12 minutes later. Maya carried Caldwell's Eggs Benedict carefully, the plate hot, the hollandaise perfectly smooth. Betty herself had prepared it, having overheard Caldwell's complaint and wanting to make sure everything was perfect. Maya set the plate down gently in front of Caldwell. "Eggs Benedict, sir. Is there anything else I can get you?" Caldwell finally looked up from his phone. He stared at the plate for a long moment, then picked up his fork and poked at the eggs. The yolk ran perfectly. The English muffin was toasted golden brown. The hollandaise was textbook perfect. He took one bite, chewed slowly, then set down his fork with deliberate precision. "This is cold." Maya blinked. "Sir, the plate just came out of the kitchen." "It's... Are you arguing with me?" Caldwell's voice rose. "I'm telling you this food is cold, and you're standing here arguing?" "I'm not arguing, sir. I'm just saying the kitchen." "I don't care about the kitchen. I care that I'm paying for a meal and getting garbage." Maya's professional composure was cracking. She could feel eyes on her from every table in the diner. "Sir, if there's a problem, I'm happy to have the kitchen remake it." "The problem is you." Caldwell stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "The problem is incompetent waitresses who can't follow simple instructions. The problem is establishments that hire people who clearly don't belong in customer service." Maya's face flushed. "Sir, please lower your voice. Don't tell me what to do." Caldwell grabbed his coffee cup, still 3/4 full, still hot from a recent refill, and for a moment, time seemed to slow down. Maya saw his hand moving, saw the coffee arcing through the air, felt the scalding liquid hit her face before her brain could process what was happening. The pain was immediate and intense. Maya screamed, her hands flying to her face, stumbling backward. The diner exploded into chaos. Betty rushed out from the kitchen, shouting Maya's name. 2 customers jumped up from their tables. And in the corner booth, 5 Hell's Angels rose as one, their chairs scraping back in perfect unison. Razor reached Caldwell first. The millionaire was already reaching for his wallet. Pulling out a $100 bill like money could fix what he'd just done. "Here's for the trouble. I'll be leaving now." Razor's hand clamped down on Caldwell's wrist like a vice. "No," Razor said quietly. "You won't." Caldwell looked up, seeing the leather vest, the patches, the cold fury in Razor's eyes. For the first time in the entire encounter, fear flickered across his face. "Let go of me," Caldwell said, trying to sound authoritative. "I'll call the police." "Good idea." Hammer had appeared on Caldwell's other side, his massive frame blocking any escape route. "Let's all wait for the police together." Tank already had his phone out, dialing 911. "Yeah, I need police and an ambulance at Betty's Diner on Route 66. A man just assaulted a waitress. Threw hot coffee in her face." Caldwell's eyes went wide. "Assault? It was an accident." 20 witnesses say otherwise," Razor interrupted. His grip on Caldwell's wrist hadn't loosened. "We all saw you throw that coffee. On purpose. Because you didn't like being told you were wrong." Betty had gotten Maya to the kitchen, running cold water over her face, ice wrapped in towels pressed against her burned skin. The girl was sobbing, the adrenaline wearing off and the full reality of what had happened hitting her. "My face," Maya kept saying. "Oh God, my face." "Sure, honey, we're getting you help," Betty said, tears streaming down her own face. "You're going to be okay." Back in the dining room, Caldwell was trying a different tack. "Look, I'm a reasonable man. I overreacted. I'll pay for her medical bills. Whatever she needs. We don't need to involve the police." "Yeah, we do," said Spider, the club's road captain. He'd been filming on his phone from the moment Caldwell stood up. "Because guys like you do this because you think money makes you untouchable. Someone needs to teach you that it doesn't." Caldwell's face reddened again, but this time with anger, not embarrassment. "Do you know who I am? I could buy this pathetic diner 20 times over. I could ruin all of you." Razor leaned in close, his voice dropping to a whisper that was somehow more terrifying than shouting. "Do you know who we are? We're men who've been to prison. We're men who have nothing left to lose. We're men who've spent our lives dealing with bullies like you. And the thing about having nothing to lose, it makes us very, very patient when it comes to waiting for justice." The police arrived 8 minutes later, 2 Flagstaff PD officers who knew Betty's Diner well, who'd eaten breakfast there dozens of times, who knew Maya by name. They saw her in the kitchen, her face blistered and red, tears streaming down her cheeks. They saw the surveillance footage from Betty's cameras showing exactly what Caldwell had done. They saw 20 witnesses, including 5 bikers who'd filmed the entire encounter on their phones. And they arrested Robert Caldwell for aggravated assault. "This is ridiculous," Caldwell sputtered as the handcuffs clicked around his wrists. "She was being disrespectful." "She was doing her job," Officer Martinez interrupted. "And you committed a felony. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it." The ambulance arrived 3 minutes after the police. The paramedics examined Maya's burns, 2nd degree across her left cheek and jaw, 1st degree on her forehead and neck. They'd need to take her to the hospital for treatment. Maya was still crying, but now it was from relief as much as pain. "I thought he was going to get away with it," she whispered to Betty. "I thought because he's rich." "Money doesn't buy you the right to hurt people," Betty said fiercely. "Not in my diner." Razor approached the ambulance before they left. "Ma'am." "Maya." Maya looked up at him, this intimidating biker who'd transformed into her protector. "Your medical bills," Razor said. "The club's going to cover them. All of them. And your lost wages while you're recovering. And if you need anything else, anything at all, you call me." He handed her a card with his number. Maya's eyes filled with fresh tears. "Why? You don't even know me." "Because that's what we do," Razor said simply. "We take care of people who can't take care of themselves. And we make sure bullies learn their lessons." The ambulance drove away, and Razor turned back to his brothers. They stood in a line outside Betty's diner, 5 men in leather vests, watching Caldwell being loaded into the police car. "Think he learned anything?" Tank asked. "Not yet," Razor said. "But he will." The trial happened 3 months later. Robert Caldwell hired the best defense attorney in Arizona, a man who specialized in making criminal charges disappear for wealthy clients. But this time, the evidence was overwhelming. 20 witnesses. Multiple video recordings. Medical records showing 2nd-degree burns. And 5 Hell's Angels who showed up to every court date in their full colors, sitting in the front row, making sure the judge and jury understood that the world was watching. Caldwell's attorney tried to paint Maya as incompetent, suggested she'd been rude first, implied that Caldwell had been provoked. But the videos told a different story. They showed a patient waitress being berated by an entitled millionaire. They showed Caldwell deliberately throwing coffee in her face, not in a moment of passion, but as a calculated act of cruelty. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes. Guilty of aggravated assault. Guilty of battery. Guilty of reckless endangerment. The judge sentenced Caldwell to 18 months in prison, 5 years probation, anger management classes, and $50,000 in restitution to Maya Rodriguez. "Mr. Caldwell," the judge said, her voice cold, "you believed your wealth placed you above consequences. Today you learned that it doesn't. Every person in this courtroom, from the janitor to the jury to me, deserves respect. Service workers are not your servants. They are human beings doing honest work. And when you threw that coffee, you didn't just assault Ms. Rodriguez. You assaulted the very idea that some people matter less than others." Caldwell stood silent, his expensive suit somehow looking cheaper in the harsh courtroom lights. 18 months, the judge repeated. "And I hope you spend every day of it learning what humility means." Outside the courthouse, Maya stood with Betty and the 5 Devil's disciples who'd changed her life that Tuesday morning. "Thank you," she said for the 100th time. "I still can't believe you did all this for me." "You're worth it," Razor said simply. "Every person is worth it." Maya's burns had healed, leaving only faint scars along her jawline, scars she no longer tried to hide. She'd finished nursing school at the top of her class, the publicity from the trial having attracted several scholarships that covered her remaining tuition. She'd landed a job at Flagstaff Medical Center, working in the ER, treating patients with the same patience and kindness she'd shown even when being abused. Betty's diner had a new photograph on the wall near the entrance. Maya in her nursing scrubs, standing between razor and hammer, all of them smiling. Below it, a small plaque read, "Kindness matters. Respect matters. Character matters. Money doesn't." The Devil's Disciples made Betty's a regular stop on their rides now. Every Tuesday morning, you could find 5 bikers in the corner booth, drinking Betty's strong coffee, eating legendary pancakes, leaving generous tips. And if anyone ever raised their voice at a server, if anyone ever snapped their fingers or treated the staff with disrespect, they'd find 5 sets of eyes turning toward them. A quiet reminder that somebody was watching. That consequences existed. That every person in that diner mattered, regardless of their job or their bank account. Robert Caldwell served 14 months of his sentence before being released for good behavior. His real estate empire had collapsed while he was in prison. Turns out investors don't like being associated with men who assault service workers. His wife divorced him, taking half of what remained. His country club membership was revoked. His reputation was destroyed. He moved to a small town in New Mexico, got a job as a property manager, learned to keep his head down and his mouth shut. And every morning when he looked in the mirror, he remembered the day he learned that money couldn't protect him from 5 men who believed in justice more than they feared consequences. Maya visits Betty's every Tuesday morning before her shift at the hospital. She sits in the corner booth with Razor and his brothers, drinks coffee, shares stories about her daughter, talks about her dreams of becoming an ER doctor someday. "You're going to make it," Razor always tells her. "You're stronger than you know." And Maya believes him, because she learned something important that terrible Tuesday morning when a millionaire threw coffee in her face and 5 Hell's Angels decided to care. She learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's 5 strangers in leather vests who see you being hurt and refuse to look away. Sometimes it's a diner owner who treats her staff like daughters. Sometimes it's a community that rallies around someone who matters, even when the world tried to tell her she didn't. The scars on Maya's face faded over time, becoming barely visible. But the lesson never did. Everyone matters. Everyone deserves respect. And money can't buy you immunity from being a decent human being. Especially when 5 Hell's Angels are watching.